I'm on the phone with Chris Converse, partner, designer, and developer with Codified Design. Chris is a graduate of Rochester Institute of Technology with a degree in graphic design. Chris began his career in print, designing and preparing digital files for commercial offset printing. In fact, 15 years studying and applying design interface principles to technology. His work spans various distribution, including CD-ROMs, websites, and interactive DVDs, and applies many authoring media and techniques, including HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Ajax, and more. Chris, good afternoon, and thanks for agreeing to the interview.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. Chris, it's a pleasure to be talking to you today. You obviously have a lot of skill sets ranging from the technology, design, and business. For today's podcast, we'd like to hone in on some of the work that you've been doing, authoring a book about your experience with design companies and advertising agencies around the world, and you've noticed this common gap in the web design workflow. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, so the gap that we've really seen has been between the development side of the house and the design side of the house. And what we're finding in a lot of companies that we do work with is the designers will go about and design their designs in InDesign or Illustrator or Quark Express, whatever they're comfortable with, PowerPoint even. And then when the client gets all excited about the design and everybody's happy, they will sort of zip up their files and just send them over to the development team and just wait for the developers to convert that design into their website. And the gap that I think we see is the developers are incentivized and targeted with getting the websites to work properly, getting the databases to work, the URLs to resolve properly, and they're not incentivized by making sure that the design is on brand, that it renders properly in the browsers. And it's our belief that the designers need to learn to do the HTML and CSS. It is the presentation layer of the web design. And so that's the gap that we've been seeing in all of these different industries that we've been working with.
Give us a couple of walkaways from your book. How do you recommend, or any tips and tricks or walkaways for web design development and business units to work better together in regards to that workflow?
Yeah, so we took this interesting approach with the book, and what we did was we started from a Photoshop file. So the idea and where the book starts is you've already got your client excited about the design and user experience and everything you want the website to be. And now you're at that point where you need to make that actually work in HTML and CSS. And so that's the point, most cases, where the design department takes their design and just sort of hands it off. So we start from a Photoshop file, and we start right off the bat with how to use the slicing tool and ideas and principles and even sketches on how you might think about cutting up your designs so that you get these tiny little graphics that you can reassemble with HTML and CSS. Then once we create our graphics, we go into Dreamweaver and we create a brand new HTML and CSS file from scratch. No code at all to start with. And then we show you step by step how to construct the HTML and CSS to get the design you made in Photoshop to render exactly the same or as close as possible in as many different web browsers. Once you get to that point, that's that piece that we talked about earlier where we see that missing gap in that workflow. If the designers can realize their designs in HTML and CSS, when they hand those designs off to a developer, the developers can then focus on the things they need to do, which is possibly take navigation elements and generate them out of databases, capture user input, make sure the email works, all the things that developers are really tasked with doing. And there's one sort of, relationship I make in some of the seminars when I talk to print designers. And I make the analogy that I don't know any print designer who would work their designs in Photoshop and Illustrator and then hand off all of their assets to a printer and expect the printer to do the InDesign layout or the Quark Express layout. The designers are responsible for the design getting to the plate and to image to film. So I make that relationship on the web and say that if you're an interactive designer designing for the web, then you need to take the responsibility of making sure your design renders in the web page. Once it works, the graphics are done, the HTML and CSS, at that point you can either continue to develop if you want to, or turning it over to a developer is not going to have any unwanted design translations in the end.
Well said. In fact, I have to give credit in looking over your website in advance of this interview. I came across really, I think, is your communication to your clients, and that is you say, We combine graphic design with technologies necessary to achieve communication across various media. It doesn't get much better than that, Chris.
I'm glad you took the time to read it. We spent a long time trying to figure out exactly what we wanted to say in that sentence. And again, it just comes back to, everyone who's one of the main players here at Codified Design is a designer at heart. We all have design degrees, but we love the technology that makes our designs come to life. So if we want to animate something in a video, or we want to make a web page change, or do something in a digital magazine, or make something for the iPad, we go out there and we learn whatever the technologies are that we need to get that design to work. And then once it goes beyond that, once we get into maybe database development or programming, then we'll go and find people who specialize in that. But we always want to make sure that our design is realized in the technologies that are going to be fostering that design.
Where would we go to get more information about you and your book?
So my book, on the Codified Design website, the name of the book is Bring Your Web Design to Life. So you can go to codified-design.com/go/bring-your-web-design-to-life. That sounds funny when you say it out loud.
I love it, though. It's almost like a commercial.
You can search it on, it's available on most major bookstores, Amazon, Borders, and so forth.
Chris, we certainly appreciate your perspective, what you do for the web profession, and most definitely for your time today.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.